with Randy today. We went down to the gun range, did a little target practicing. We're going to make this segment for our next video. We're going to have the main topic is going to be the speed kills, and we're going to be talking about the rifles, weapons we use that we typically carry, the ammo we use. Randall, what rifles did you have with us today?
A 6.5 PRC and a 270 WSM.
Okay, both of them, what more or less velocities have they got?
Between 3,000 and 3,200 feet per second.
Okay, that's pretty fast moving. For myself, on my part, what I'll be using is a 257 Weatherby, shooting a bullet anywhere from 34 to 3,600 feet per second. It's a 100 grain, 110 grain bullet. And then for another rifle that I'll probably be using for hogs, wild boar, and other big game is a 7mm Winchester short mag. It throws a bullet out, 145 grain bullet, and a little over 3,300 feet per second. What we're attempting to prove and what we advocate is that speed does kill. Hydrostatic shock is well known amongst hunters. Roy Weatherby was a fanatic about speed killing. I think with a 257 Weatherby, he knocked down a Cape buffalo. Also, he took an elephant, he took rhinoceros, and a hippopotamus, all with 110 grain bullet, moving at phenomenal speeds. I'm sure he was using reloads. And we typically do our own reloading. Today we were at the range. Didn't have a whole lot of success with our loads, so we're going to have to go back to the factory, get back in and redo some loads, and try and get things worked out so that we're getting a premium out of our firearms, our weapons. Anyway, on that note, I will talk to you again. Okay, folks, we're back here again. We started off talking on this video about getting out to the range with our weapons, our firearms, and various ammunition that we typically like to use for hunting wild boar. And the premise of what we're going to be talking about is that, as I mentioned before also, that speed kills. And we would like your input as to this. It's a very controversial subject. We believe primarily that velocity of your ammunition combined with bullet structure, how it's constructed, and of course target placement, where you're hitting your game animals, in this case wild boar, is critical. We have the opposing arguments where a lot of people believe that, well, the bigger the bullet, the better it's going to knock them down. And we don't agree with that totally. Yes, if you can get a big bullet moving at velocities that we're going to be talking about, then that's great. But now you're getting into military artillery, because what we're talking about here today, these things are booking. They are laser fast. The bullet construction that we use typically is considered a premium, at a premium. The way they're built, especially for wild hog and other big game in general, it also applies to that. The weaponry that I use personally, my number one go-to weapon system is this puppy right here. We got us a Model 70 Winchester in 7mm Magnum Winchester short mag. Very similar to a 7mm Remington Magnum as far as ballistics are concerned. I just like the short mag. It's a lot quicker to get repeat shots, etc. This is a weapon that typically shoots, and what I shoot is 140 grain Winchester silver tip. This puppy's moving over 3,300 feet per second. It's a 24-inch barrel, and it hits with authority over 3,200 feet per second, or excuse me, 3,200 foot-pounds of energy. Okay, and the recoil for me is moderate. I don't mind it at all, and it's a good long-range cartridge. If you're wanting to shoot 500, 600, 700 yards, not a problem. And when you look at the ballistics on it, it's a pretty phenomenal cartridge. Okay, and this beauty right here, this is a custom-made rifle. It's a 257 Weatherby Magnum, and it is a laser. It throws out a 100 grain Barnes bullet at over 3,600 feet per second. With this caliber, they've actually gotten speeds with 87 grain bullets over 4,000 feet per second. Actually 4150, I believe one guy was able to do. And a lot of that has to do with the twist of the barrel, not being able to handle certain bullet lengths. But now they're coming out with a different twist with these barrels so that they can shoot these longer bullets and getting even faster speeds if that's conceivable. But yeah, this baby right here is for long range use. It's got, you know, the loophole variable X3 scope on it. It's free floated barrel, made by Remington, Model 700 barrel. And folks, this is a rocket. You just don't, right now, out to 500 yards, you just can't beat it. Now, I'm going to be talking about another caliber here that my partner uses, that long range, it does better. But out to 500 yards, and believe it or not, this is still a very accurate out to 1,000 yard range with very minimal, very low drop. I think it was, I can't remember the exact droppage on it, but a very hard hitting bullet. This is the caliber that Roy Weatherby developed back in the 40s, and everybody said that knew Roy. It was his favorite cartridge, his favorite ammunition. He actually took a Cape Buffalo with this round. He then also followed it up later on with taking an elephant and a hippopotamus. And this is more proven. I think he was using at the time a 110 grain nozzler partition bullet. Obviously moving at phenomenal velocities. But this is the point we're making, that when you have the correct or very high velocity bullet with the proper construction and good target placement, you can drop just about anything. You bring on Tyrannosaurus Rex, you can drop him if you've got the right combination. Okay? So, anyway, moving on. Now, when I get into brushy country where it's really thick, both of these weapon systems right here are not the best to be using. Number one, your scope power is going to be slowing you up a little bit. So what I rely on, believe it or not, and it's not that fast of a bullet, is this puppy right here, the 300 Blackout. And you say, well, wait a minute, 300 Blackout. Now I use supersonic ammunition, not the subsonic stuff. That's a no-go. Not my book, no working. That dog don't bark for me. Okay, this here I use supersonic ammunition. They're only moving about 2450 compared to these puppies right here. That's a slow-moving bullet. But look at the frame. It's an AR, semi-automatic. If I have to drop a charging hog, I don't care how big it is, and I get those rounds where they need to be, okay, they're going to drop that hog. Okay, these rounds are moving 2450, I think. The one I use, these puppies right here, these are AAC 110 grain saber jets. Love them. They do dramatic damage on anything that I've shot so far. Okay, but you get a charging animal, you can throw 4, 5, 6 rounds into them real quick. And I guarantee you, over Numb, back when we had that little conflagration going on, that police action, they had Bengal tigers. You're talking 300, 400 pound cats that they had to contend with, and what our soldiers were relying on were 223. But it worked, mainly because they were usually full automatic. You hit an animal that size with a lot of rounds, they're going to drop. Okay, I mean, you got poachers over in Africa taking elephants with AK-47s. Why? They've got semi-automatic and automatic fire that they're able to drop those animals with a relatively light bullet. AK-47 shoots a 123 grain bullet. And they work effectively. Unfortunately for our society, these poachers are able to rely on something like that. But, and again, this is what I rely on when I go into the brush. Okay, backup weapons. Okay, I carry as a backup weapon typically this puppy right here, 44 Magnum. Okay, we're empty, as you all can see. This is a Taurus Tracker, short barrel, 3.5 inch, I believe, is the length on it. It 15-20 feet, accurate. I can nail a boar in the head pretty easy. The rounds I use, and I got a combination, I use Hornady FTXs to 225 grain. These puppies are moving. Now, talking about speed kills for 44 Magnum, these are hard to beat. They're about 1,400 feet per second. Okay, and then I'll carry, I think, 2 or 3 of those up front. And if I need the backup, I've got the Hornady, I forgot the model name, but it's a 240 grain bullet. Very popular, and my brain's not working right now. Not the FTXs. That's what these are. And these, anyway, Hornady's got these 240 grain bullets that are phenomenal. Great backup weapon. My partners, guys that I hunt with a lot, one of them uses the 10 millimeter. When you got a 10 millimeter loaded with buffalo bore rounds, you'll stop anything on this continent. Okay, and I think he's got 15 rounds that he carries in that Glock. My other partner, Denny, I think he carries a 9 millimeter. He's got buffalo bore cartridges that he carries with that, and I think they're 147 grain. Again, very fast moving, hard hitting, hard cast bullets. 9 millimeter, a lot of people, going, whoa, wait a minute. That's going to stop a 500-pound boar that's charging? Yes, it will if you hit them right. Any boar that you shoot has to be hit properly. I have seen, in my experience of guiding hunters, I have seen hunters shooting. We had a hunter shoot a big 350-pound boar with a 250 grain 375 Ruger bullet from 80 yards away. That thing charged us after he got hit. We had to jump in our truck to hide from it as it ran by the truck, and would have kept going. We don't know how far. But he finally did a Texas Longhorn shot on him, and finally dropped him. That's a big cannon, folks. That's a big bullet, moving pretty good. Okay, so I've had hunters hit pigs I had one hunter hit in the bread basket with a 7 millimeter Magnum. Unfortunately for him and the pig, probably, because it took a lot to get him down, he was using 150 grain core lock deer bullets. They're for deer. They expand too much, do a lot of damage going in, but they don't penetrate enough. And so you've got to have the proper construction or constructed bullet. I'm an advocate of Barnes solid copper bullets. The AccuBonds are phenomenal at penetrating. They still expand, and they get in there and do the job. And so anything you use on that level, that's the thing you've got to keep in mind. These puppies right here, the 257 trophy class, and what is it? AccuBond by Mosler, 110 grain. They do a great job. Nosler's really good. They're partition bullets, and the Nosler trophy grades are phenomenal bullets. They do a great job. With my 7 millimeter, back to that, the 140 grain Winchester silver tip. Just an excellent bullet, holds together well, does great. It's good on elk, up to brown bear, grizzly, whatever. Getting back to the weaponry that we use, I know my partner is very sold on, as am I, the 270 Winchester short mag. Very similar, close to the 7 millimeter Winchester short mag in ballistics. Excellent round. You take a 155 grain bullet that he uses, moving 3,100 feet per second, carrying 3,300 foot-pounds of energy. That'll knock a hog down, folks. That's a fast-moving, heavy bullet. He also likes the 6.5 PRC. In my estimation, it's not quite as effective out to 400, 500 yards as that 270 that he's got. but he throws out a 143 grain bullet at almost 3,000 feet per second, just under, and it's got 2,782 feet per second, or foot-pounds of energy. Out long range, that round carries a lot of destruction, surpassing even the 270 Winchester short mag, surpassing even this baby right here that we know out to 500 yards is hard to beat. But when that 6.5 PRC gets out beyond 500 yards, out to 1,000 yards, it is taking over. I mean, it is powerful. Got a lot of knockdown power, a lot of energy. And that's because of the ballistic coefficient. Ballistic coefficient comes into play, especially long-range shooting. Okay? My other partner, he likes that 22 Creedmoor. Now, I know what you're all thinking. 22 Creedmoor. What in the world? A 22 for hogs? Folks, I want to tell you something. He's got a 90 grain bullet that shoots at 3,200 feet per second. That's a lot of shock. It's called hydrostatic shock. The one thing that Roy Weatherby, Wally Tabor, all of those experts, so-called, all believe in. Hydrostatic shock does a world of good as long as that bullet penetrates. So as long as he's shooting the proper bullet, and again, I love Barnes copper bullets, I love the AccuBonds. When you're moving a bullet out there, I don't care if it is only 90 grains, you're going to knock big animals down. Okay? That 90 grain bullet has over 2,000 foot-pounds of energy. Okay? So that is a hard-hitting bullet. And yeah, I have to admit, when he first told me about that caliber and that he was going to use for bear hunting and wild hogs, I looked at him like he had been smoking some funny stuff. Okay, but when I started learning about that caliber, it started to dawn on me. It's like, wow, this is the same premise that experts like Roy Weatherby and Wally Tabor and a bunch of other guys, okay, all came up with. Hydrostatic shock with the proper bullet construction and target placement, bullet placement, are the three most important factors that you can use in. Yeah, all that ballistic coefficient stuff, that's important. Long range, it's very important. But for average hunters shooting out to 500, 600 yards, the three things I just mentioned are the most critical. And so, folks, if you enjoyed today's video, we would appreciate you liking us. We need that help from you to help our videos get out there so that people can see what we've got. And if you're into wild boar hunting, tune in, subscribe to Arizona Hog Hunters. We really would appreciate it. On that note, I'll say bye-bye.
Lower left.
Damn target.
I'll fire one shot. Let me show you.
There it is.
I'll fire from back to the logo here when you shoot.
Lower left, right?
Lower left.
Point it downhill. Downhill. You get outside the chicken guard. All the way back. Ready to go now. Safety's off. That's going to fire. Ready? I'll show you.
Thumb, baby.